And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. A vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and Streisand effects because those of you that don't know, thunder snow is a real thing, and it is more terrifying than you can imagine. Try to imagine you're out in the middle of, somewhere where there's snow coming down in the middle of the night. And you're woken from a dead sleep because the walls are shaking from the thunder. And it looks like an EDM concert outside. That's a bad moment. Yes, I know a little something about that. And part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Oh, we're having a time right about now. Let me go ahead and introduce you to everybody because reasons. From the right-hand coast, where right now there are no hurricanes, which is good because it's December and there damn well better not be. Unrenowned Tech gets to join us this morning. Hi.
Howdy do.
And over
It's cold, but I don't have snow. I'm so sad.
It'll happen. And over on the left coast, where there shouldn't be any snow, let alone hurricanes right now, although not too very long ago. Io Cloud, you made it home. Hi.
And I have a pina colada in me too. It was date night. And he took me out, and because I wasn't driving, I got to order a pina colada.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the first syllable that was coming out of you, I got very, very scared very, very quickly. And then, not colada. Okay, yeah. That tracks. That's fine.
Hey, I've had them, and they've tasted terrible because there was the combination of alcohol and other stuff just was not good. This one was... I drank it too fast because it was that good.
Do you like pina coladas?
Pinya. N-Y-A. You say it like you're a Japanese cat.
Nyan!
Right. Pinya. Because it's the
My
end
cat
with the
just
with
meowed
the
at me for doing the Japanese nyan.
So on my needles, I have a hat in chameleon yarn, which means I actually have to go outside while the Daystar is up and actually use the Daystar's magic light to see what color I'm knitting.
nuclear dayball. Let's get the terms right.
Yes,
Just get a full
yes.
spectrum light.
And no. It actually changes color under UV light.
You can get a UV light.
I have a UV light. I don't have a thing to actually plug it into, which... Anyway.
Battery powered.
That's project number 1 on my knitting needles. Project number 2 on my knitting needles is a cowl, COWL, for my neck because I felt cold on Monday. And I have this cashmere and silk combinations yarn, which is just heavenly to work with, except it's so thin I have to be careful with my stitches. And the third thing that I have on my knitting needles is, I have lots of knitting needles, trust me, an Irish diamond shawl that I'm trying to make for the 7th, 8th time. I've successfully made them twice. They haven't lasted long, but I have made it twice before, actually finished it. I'm trying again. I try, I decide I don't like the yarn, and I frog it. So I like the feel of this cotton yarn that I've got. So hopefully in a couple months it'll be done. So I'm just sitting here working on it while Shu and you Tech do your thing and bounce off of each other.
Lulu plushie.
Perfect.
I don't have anything on my crochet hooks at the moment, but I'm thinking about doing a protest hat for January 20th.
Nah, make a Guy Fawkes mask out of it. That way it's form-fitting.
There's something to be said for that. Anyhow,
Yeah, but I don't. I want something I can wear afterwards.
well, you can always wear it every December. November?
Remember,
November.
I didn't.
remember the 5th of November.
Never
Oh,
said November.
Gunpowder's retreat
Gotta
plot.
look it up now. I gotta watch V again.
See, you say that, and the first thing that comes to my mind is the miniseries from the 80s, but nobody remembers about.
I remember it. I used to watch it with my dad. We loved it.
Well, for the spandex, of course.
No. For the storyline, of course. I
So-
thought it was a little gruesome.
So everybody,
For the fact that Freddy Krueger was one of the aliens, of course.
of course, thank you for joining us, of course, tonight. We hope that you're doing well and you're staying safe out there. And I say that as somebody who made a minor error in trying to figure out how to get his car parked in his own driveway. And the only reason that I can admit to screwing up is because the backup camera, the inside of the dome that's supposed to protect the camera, apparently is very, very, very foggy, which makes it impossible for me to see in the camera, and I misjudged the turn. Car is unstuck now, so.
While you're doing your rant, I'm going to have to run out and move my car because my car is currently in one of the visitors' parking spots where it's not supposed to be.
Fair enough. We'll get to that in a moment.
Oh, and as for the weather, I could have been outside in shorts and a t-shirt.
I could have. I mean, I wouldn't have done well, but I could have.
Supposedly it was 28°C. You know, nice cool day for California.
Yeah. It's perfectly fine. Of course, as always, if you'd like to join us as we're doing this live, please feel free to join us over on YouTube each week, most weeks as we go ahead and we do this. And you can be part of the live chat over there, which means Stephanie made it. Good morning. I was having a little bit of fun because Stephanie's in the process of redoing the paint in the place and named off the colors that are being used, and I was just like, okay, so what did I put it over here? Where did I put it? So I commented that the hallway is command because of the color, the bedroom is science, and the living room is operations. Because I'm a child of the 80s, and of course Star Trek The Next Generation color scheme came to mind, and well, that's just the way it works. I'd say sorry, but we all know I'm not. So that's good. Anyhow, how about I go ahead and I get started on that, and then we can kind of move along, and Io can get all of her stuff taken care of over there. So let me go ahead and do that. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle is going to start right now. I labeled this one Bottle, and I want you to know I was actually having a really hard time coming up with the title. I kind of had an idea as to what I wanted to say, but the only word that I could think of that should have been the title was the German term Schadenfreude, but that doesn't exactly fit for what I'm trying to describe. See, there is no functional term that I could find when someone takes delight in the cessation of biology in another. Can't find a word for that. I looked, didn't find anything, which could mean that I wasn't looking hard enough. Be that as it may. This past week, we know full well that there was a shooting, a very public and very, very well publicized shooting in New York this past week, where someone introduced new ventilation holes in the CEO of a health insurance provider. Now, friend of the show, Tom Verney, has been on the various news cycles talking about it from the standpoint of someone who has been part of the police forces in New York City. And he is one of the few people that I will say I respect and I trust. Partly because we grew up together, and that I do still believe that we hold very similar values. The whole truth, justice, and the American way thing, if you will. But something tells me that the way that the public has been reacting to this on various social medias is far and away more a warning, is a cautionary tale that goes out there. It is the message in a bottle, which is where my title now comes from. It's a message that's being put out there that, well, people are fed up. Now, it could very easily be that that is not what this message was, if even there was a message in the shooting itself. But it's hard to overlook that possibility. It's almost impossible to overlook it. We've talked on many indication about just how nasty, how incomprehensible some of these health insurance providers can be. Trying to get money out of them is, well, bleeding a stone. And before anybody goes ahead and says, nah, it's not really that bad, might I remind you that in the 80s, before I moved up here, the independent pharmacy that I was working with, it was routine for them to have $30,000 plus waiting to be paid out by insurance carriers per insurance provider. And we handled upwards of a dozen just because that's what was available. And in the 80s, you know full well, $30,000, that was nothing to sneeze at. There is another health company that has removed references to all of their top-level brass from their websites now, completely forgetting that the Wayback Machine is a thing. So, I don't know if this is a message that's being sent. I don't know that there is a message to be sent. But the fact that there is fear going on for the health and safety of these people definitely sends a message, whether it's intended or not. And one of the messages that we in the public have is that we respect dragons for hoarding their gold, because that's what they do. They tell you that. But when a group says, we will help take care of you and pay for the things that you can't in order to keep you alive, and they choose not to, well then, you haven't been sending a message in a bottle. You've been screaming it at the top of your lungs. I wonder which one of these messages wins out in the end. So with that out of the way, it is time for the horrible scopes. And Io, you're back in time?
Maybe.
I'll take that as a yes.
By the way, an interesting article came across my news feed, because I still try to keep up with the news to a degree, that the NYPD were reaching out and trying to outsource a little bit by asking the people on the internet who are really good at taking pictures and tracking people down and telling you where this photo was taken and all that stuff. These really smart people who tend to do a lot of altruistic things.
Sure.
You know, help find loved ones, missing people and all that.
Sure.
They've rejected the requests in terms of trying to identify the assassin.
I wonder why.
I saw that and I went, huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Nobody has seen anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, facial blindness apparently is a very serious pre-existing condition.
Yeah, 4chan.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
4chan will track down people in Eastern European countries who have taken pictures of themselves doing unspeakable things to young animals and track them down in a matter of like hours, a month maybe, at the absolute worst.
Well, it depends on who's behind the computer screen, which we don't know who those people are, and I would never try to dox them in the first place because they do good. A lot of them do good things, but you know the silence is so deafening, and the rejections are like a sledgehammer in that silence, and it's just, I mean,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these kinds of people, like there's one guy who does YouTube videos, and he does it for educational purposes to educate the youth on the dangers of taking and publishing photos on open social media pages. Like one woman was concerned about, I think, her daughter, maybe her son, and asked the guy to use a photo that anonymize the pictures of the faces, but to demonstrate to their child just how easy it is for this one photo to identify where they were when the picture was taken. And the guy had it down to not just the town location and street intersection that the photo was taken at, the type of camera that was used, which was a cell phone. And since the metadata wasn't stripped out, he was able to identify the cell phone, and he was able to identify the day of the year the picture was taken with a plus or minus variable of within that week, because of the where the location was and the sun and everything else.
Yeah, but then again,
on my mind,
you forget, you don't take the metadata out of the image. Well, yeah, I mean, you've got so much information in there, it's not even funny. You know,
and that's the point. He said, if I take the metadata out of it and I don't know the date of the year or anything else, this is how I figured it out without it. So even if you strip out the metadata, people like me can still figure it out. And I looked at that and I went, oh my God, wow, these people are smart.
Yep.
I have so much respect for that level of intelligence.
See? Go ahead and say it one more time. Digital Dog Cow will tell you every goddamn time.
All is known.
So let's go ahead.
Except nobody's knowing anything about what happened.
No. People know. People, however, have decided that they're going to wear their capes with their silence. Because not all heroes wear capes.
Or they've conveniently forgotten.
It just happens in Italian families sometimes.
Yeah, memory loss. You know, who can predict that? I mean, especially with COVID around and everything. You know.
Yeah, long COVID's a bitch, man.
Oh yeah, it's a terrible thing.
Let's do the horrible. Let's do the horrible scopes. So for those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can make it up as you go along. And if you want to go ahead and make it up as you go along, roll a D12. You can get in touch with the folks that like us over there in Fredonia. Heart of the Game Fredonia, they'll be more than happy to sell you one of those D12s, maybe even, ship it to you if you've got a stateside address or somebody that can act as a dice mule for you. I don't recommend that personally, but I mean, it's a thing that could happen. Remember, that's Heart of the Game Fredonia. Hail, hail, Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil, and they're the shop that's got a mimic in the window that they keep fed so that they know that it's still actually the mimic in the window. I asked them about that recently, and they said, yeah, no, it's fine. We keep it fed so that we know that it's still happy and not going after anyone. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. So one of the things you really need to do this season is slow down, take a breather, and just enjoy some simple food. Yeah, food, by the way, is an addiction. You literally can't live without it. So this week, we're taking you out for a slice. And just with that simple expression, you already know we're talking about pizza. So get ready to learn a little something about one of the most divisive foods known to America, because they don't care who likes what outside of this country. Aries, as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So for you, we're serving up the aptly named Roman pizza. Yes, it started there, but you can find it all over central Italy. You have your choice of the rectangular slices of focaccia bread covered in tomato sauce and toppings, or the more common pizza tonda, which is not unlike the round pies you'd get pretty much everywhere. So this week, if you want to make your own Roman pizza, invest in a cooking stone and actually read the directions on how to use it. Because if you think you can just put it in the dishwasher after it gets stained, you won't like the results.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong window. Taurus, you might think that yours is superior to everyone else's. But really, it's just marketing. It's all marketing. Instead of an actual ingredient-based type, you've got an entire category. New York style. The crust is thin. The cheese so stringy that you'll need to swallow it multiple times to get it down your throat. And the olive oil that bleeds off it needs an order of garlic knots to sop it up. There's only one way to properly eat this, and that's with your nose held up high, so you can look down at the second-degree burns that are about to assault the roof of your mouth. So this week, if you think about it, when you fold this up to eat it, you're just making a really thin calzone. If you want a calzone, just order a calzone.
That line about second-degree burn on the top of your mouth, man.
That's no joke, man. That's no joke.
I have not been prouder in a very long time for that line. That is so.
Yeah. And I will say this: I have been to a couple of New York-style pizzerias in the Washington D.C. area, and they tried one of their cals, and some of them got it right.
Okay.
But what really disappointed me was when some of them were trying to make a calzone, they ended up making a stromboli, and I'm like, this is not a calzone. I went back, I was like, look, guys, this is not a calzone. This is a stromboli. And I'm like, what's the difference? And I went, oh my god.
What are you from, Jersey? God.
Oh, it was so disappointing.
Gemini, do not screw this one up, or you will live to regret it. Grandma's Pizza is a distinct, thin, rectangular-style pizza attributed to Long Island, New York, because, of course it is. Since it's reminiscent of pizzas baked at home by Italian housewives who lacked a pizza oven, you'll make it on a baking sheet, so it'll naturally come out rectangular. Typically, you top a thin Sicilian crust with cheese, then tomato sauce. Bake it in the home oven, then serve it hot. So this week, Nonna will forgive you for making a mistake when making it wrong the first time, maybe even the second time. But heaven help you if you screw this up after that. She will teach you how to do it right. Take notes.
Nona may be only 3'2", but she will devastate you.
I'm making sure you don't have pineapple anywhere in this.
So, on the pineapple topic, there is a place that makes pizzas near me. They don't claim to be any special pizza place, whatever. They don't do any of that kind of nonsense. But they do actually make a very special pineapple pizza that uses a plum sauce base. And it's a very, the ham that they put in there is a very high quality. They don't overload it with a lot of pineapple. So it's actually the flavors of the ham, the plum sauce, and the pineapple are very well balanced. It was probably one of the most pleasant pineapple top pizzas I have ever had in my life. It wasn't overly sweet, wasn't overly acidic. It's, if I had to say, if I ever eat, like somebody goes, hey, you want a Hawaiian pizza? After having what I had, not a chance. This thing was amazeballs for a new creation. I've never had anything like it.
Pineapples do not belong. On
you can put
pizza.
Whatever you want on pizza.
No.
Yes.
Pineapple does not belong on pizza. That's a hill I will die on.
It all depends on what kind of pizza you're making. If you try to make a Chicago pizza with pineapple on it, even I will dump that on your head.
We'll get to this question in due course. Cancer Moonchild. Let all the yelling and screaming between the two cities go on without you because you're getting all laid back on the left coast. California-style pizza combines New York and Italian thin crust with toppings from the California cuisine cooking style. So just when you thought the question of pineapple as a topping was annoying, what happens when someone puts avocado wedges on it? So this week, if you like it, that's all that matters. Cheese and onions and vegetarian ingredients all over the place are what you crave. Fine, go for it. But don't you dare annoy the rest of us for liking thin crust, pepperoni, meatball, banana pepper, and bacon as a topping.
It's actually a good topping on a thin crust.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you find a place that doesn't burn it trying to cook everything.
And you have no idea how hard it is to find good meatball topping. God damn it.
Yeah. I think the best one I had is where they made it, but they didn't bake it in the oven with the bacon on top. They made the bacon in the kitchen while the pizza was baking. And then when the pizza came out, they crumbled the bacon all over the top of it. It worked well. It had the right amount of crispness to it. It wasn't soggy. Leo, you don't want to be left out in the cold, huh? Not to worry. We saved you a slice of New York style pizza. But we're suggesting that you make it yourself. Not because we think you need the practice or that we want to watch you fail at throwing the dough overhead. It's because you need to have the best possible version of making all the parts from scratch. There are kits so that you can make mozzarella, whole milk. It's not that tough. But the key is to make the exceptional marinara sauce instead of a tomato sauce. Huh. They're similar, but you'll love how much richer marinara is. And it's even better in lasagna. I know I'm saying marinara like somebody who's not from New York. So this week, trust us, if you don't call that cheese mozzarella, you will be judged by every Italian that hears you say it wrong. Do not screw this up.
Yeah, there is a YouTube short that I have to make sure I make sure that is in the show notes for exactly that reason. It was always mozzarella. You don't call it mozzarella because you ask me to hand you a piece of mozzarella, I'm going to ask you the same question that's in the short. The hell are you talking about?
I've got it, and I'm putting it in the show notes now.
You good man.
It's the real Sam.
Yeah, it's him.
Yep.
He's a good guy.
How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing? I'm just here for the cheese.
I'm just thinking about the pizza place that I grew up with. It had a very simple number. 222-2222. And it was a wonderful pizza, but apparently they closed back in 2003. I want to just cry. Virgo, before we even get the way yours is made, we need to talk about what goes into it. Imagine a dense tomato sauce covering a collection of mozzarella, ground beef, sausage, pepperoni, onion, mushrooms, and green peppers. This sounds a lot like an all-you-can-eat lasagna, doesn't it? But you know it's going to be pizza. Specifically, this is a Chicago pizza. Yes, you could do it in the more traditional deep dish style, but just imagine how fulfilling this collection of ingredients is. So this week, creating a lasagna with all these ingredients wouldn't be so bad at all. And remember, the only way to know if pizza, or lasagna for that matter, is really good is to eat it for breakfast the morning after.
This is 100% true.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Pizza 222, I miss you. I'm so sorry you folded.
Wasn't that Pizza? AKA Little Caesars?
No.
It was a local place.
It was a local place, local to Vancouver itself.
Don't they have? Doesn't Little Caesars / Pizza have like a national number that's like everywhere for them? up there? I thought they did.
It's Pizza 222, 16 locations in Greater Vancouver. The phone number was literally 222-222-22. And a small, 10-inch small was $5.99. This is 84 prices. 12-inch medium was $7.99. And a large was $9.99. My mother and I would order 2 larges. She would get ham and pineapple. I'd get ham and mushroom. Couldn't stand pineapple. I would then eat my pizza. And then over the next couple of days, I would have the remains of my pizza and then the remains of her pizza, picking out the pineapples.
There you
Hated
go.
Pineapple.
You can have all my pineapples. I can't say I don't like pineapple. I do like it as the orange Julius and pina colada, but I don't like pineapple as pineapple.
That's fair.
I know. Go shoe.
I'm just having a moment.
Libra.
Yes, I know.
He's getting his accent ready. Leave him alone.
Oh,
no,
shit.
I've got several things that are running through my head simultaneously and just all crashing at the same time. Libra, now that you let Virgo take the brunt of the attacks, you're able to just set a while and have a Chicago-style pizza with whatever toppings you want. Maybe an extra helping of cheese or sliced meatball instead. In any event, you'll be taking to it with a knife and fork because unlike the mooks in NYC, your pizza is actually 3-dimensional. So this week, there's no toppings on Chicago pizza, you poser. It's all under the sauce. Get on the first flight east before someone figures out who you are and has to explain it to you.
Now, here's a fun one. I tend to refer to those as Chicago deep dish style pizzas because Chicago actually has 2 styles of pizzas and that they're known for. Everybody is most people are aware of the Chicago deep dish style, but they have another style. It's more tavern style. And if you go with the regulars and they're going for a pizza, you most likely will wind up with a true tavern style pizza. There's actually a YouTuber who did all that, Adam Witt. I put the link to the YouTube video that he made about it. And so it's interesting. And there's a lot of places that actually have like some kind of dish that everybody is aware of, and then a much lesser known dish that's just as amazing. And tavern style pizzas are truly amazing if they're made right. Scorpio, just like the first listing, we're taking you to Rome so that you can try out another locally created pizza. By name, it's called Pizza al I'm gonna butcher it. I know it. Pizza al Taglio.
Got it right.
Which doesn't exactly tell you much about what's on it. The name literally translates to pizza by the slice, meaning it's a simple takeaway food, easily made in rectangles, easily cut into similar rectangles, and easily sold by either the 100-gram or by the kilogram. So this week, if you're eating pizza by the kilogram, you need to give serious consideration to changing up your diet a little. Maybe adding some wine to go along with all that bread. Aids in digestion.
Uh-oh.
The Sagittarius?
Yeah,
Sagittarius.
you're not going to like this.
So what?
Go on. Go on.
I've heard of it. Go on.
Sagittarius. Chances are you've likely never heard of Altoona-style pizza, unless you've lived in the central Pennsylvania area for a while. Altoona-style, created in the city of Altoona, Pennsylvania, by the Altoona Hotel, is Well, to put it mildly, different. First, you take a Sicilian-style pizza dough, add tomato sauce, sliced green bell pepper, salami. On top of that, a slice of American cheese. Cut into squares and serve it up hot. So this week, yeah, we didn't think it was possible to make a more divisive topping choice than pineapple, but here we are. Have fun arguing about the American cheese instead of mozzarella.
You should look up the Bangor style pizza.
No.
Bangor, Bangor,
No.
Bangor style pizza.
No, no. No.
Yeah, there are a lot of places that have regional pizzas.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And they're wrong. Capricorn, okay. We are not playing favorites here, we promise. But we're about to tell you about something known as Colorado Mountain Pie. It's pizza made with a thick, braided crust topped with heavy amounts of sauce and cheese. The funniest part about the whole thing to us is it's not sold by the slice. It's served by the pound. And for those that are metrically inclined, that's about half a kilo. And as if that wasn't weird enough, making it sound like you're buying illegal drugs, it's served with a side of honey as a condiment. So this week, remember that honey is filtered bee barf. You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I had to mute myself. I was laughing so hard.
I've seen people dip in ranch dressing. Okay, blue cheese is my personal choice because usually out here you get, pizza with wings. Okay.
By the way, Spokane, Washington has a regional pizza that involves strawberries. How's that for putting fruit on your pizza?
Yeah, but they also don't get to see the sun like 18 hours of the day. So,
It's one of the few regional pizzas with some with quote unquote non-traditional toppings on it that I really actually do want to try making and enjoy. All right, Aquarius. Again, we're bringing you all the knowledge of a locally created pizza that you might not have heard about before. New Haven Pizza, better known as a pizza, is the Neapolitan or Nepalese pizza's grittier cousin. Similar to the Neapolitan, the crust is thin and crispy, but it's also charred and typically irregular. Because of the way it's crafted, it's hard to find a New Haven pizza that's perfectly circular. And really, why would you want it that way? So this week, embrace the odd and misshapen versions. That's how you can be sure it's a uniquely created dinner for you. And it's the same way if you get a Nepalese pizza, it should not be perfectly round.
One would hope.
Yeah, if it's round, if it's perfectly round, run. Don't walk out of the restaurant.
You get the last one, hon.
I'm just looking up Canadian pizza.
So you bite into it and it apologizes to you for burning the roof of your mouth.
Something like that, yeah. Actually, there was this show called Canada's Worst Driver, and one of the first seasons, they had the drivers that were left go and get pizza for a pizza party. And one of the drivers got there, ordered their pizza, and was waiting around when one of the other drivers got there and stole that pizza and took off with it. Yeah. Pisces. And for the final pizza, we're taking you to the Motor City in the 1940s. Detroit-style pizza was made by throwing some Sicilian pizza dough into a square pan that was originally used to carry auto parts. And thus the Detroit-style pan pizza was born. Obviously, they don't use motor oil to coat the pans, but they do completely ignore the standard Italian cheeses, replacing mozzarella or Romano with something called
Wisconsin.
I was doing that on purpose. Brick cheese, which is said to be mild and perfectly meltable. So this week, depending on what the cheese tastes like, maybe using 5W30 might be the better alternative.
Okay, so I've actually had Wisconsin brick cheese before, and it is something that you only want to eat after it's been melted, in my opinion. I followed the recipe on Chef John's channel, foodwishes.com. I put the YouTube link in there because I actually followed it, and I made it, and it's absolutely delicious. Uh, and believe it or not, you can go on Amazon or a lot of places and actually find those Detroit style pizza pans online
Excuse me.
and to make the pizzas in. They're it's really good. If you're looking to experiment with something and you can get your hands, my local grocery store, I don't have to order it online anymore. My local grocery store now carries Wisconsin brick cheese.
That qualifies as experimental, though.
Yeah. But it's delicious. It was one of those ones I was like, really? Okay, I'll give it a shot. Wow, this is good. So, seriously, to you folks out there, if you're ever in the mood to make your own pizza and you want to try something different, definitely get your hands on some real brick cheese and give it a shot. Really, it's really good.
Those are your horrible scopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, you're one of the few that did, I'm guessing then. But of course, if you'd like a better or nastier one for yourself or someone else, you can literally bribe me by asking, or bribe me literally over the coffee page, coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. I'll have these posted online at the end of the week as usual. Tumblr, Facebook, Discord, Blue Sky, a lot of Blue Sky activity going on. I'm finally finished getting all of my one account cleared of all of the people that I was following and brought it all over to Blue Sky finally, which, being that I'm doing it in a manual way, is taking a little bit of time. But don't worry, I have no intention of posting there again, but I will keep opening the tab so that I'm quote-unquote logged in again, just so that the systems don't, give away my accounts to anyone else. Yeah, it's only going to hold them off for so long, but you know what? It's going to be what it's going to be. It's episode 519 on the docket, Your Honor. What time is it? So I wanted to kind of get us back to something approaching the roots of what the show was supposed to be about, which was, the stuff about theistic thinking. Stinking thinking. And the questions usually come up about, or the complaints, I should say, come up about not being able to understand a technical topic, because it's a technical topic that requires a lot of time to actually properly understand it. Things like virology, for instance, or quantum mechanics, or, orbital mechanics, which is a lot harder than you might think it is. And I haven't taken any courses on it. I just played Kerbal Space Program. So try it sometime. It ain't easy. But then the question finally popped into my head, well, how far down that rabbit hole can we pull somebody back from? And it came back to a simple question. What time is it? How do you know what time it is? Because if the sun isn't out, how do you know? And even if the sun is out, how do you know? So I want to have a little bit of fun and kind of go through some of these arguments that we've heard, these complaints, these low brain activity moments, and just realize, maybe it's a good idea for you folks to just open another book and read. Something other than Twilight, I guess, maybe might be a good idea. So the let me give you an idea as to, what this kind of started off with. And it literally started off with the whole thing about how did we find out that the Earth is round and very close to approximately how big it is. And that was done in ancient Greece with a couple of guys and a stick each. And they literally measured the length of the shadow that the stick cast at noon when the sun was directly overhead, or as close to it as you could get where they were, and doing a little bit of maths. And if memory serves, the ancient Greeks had the circumference of the Earth within, I think, 1%.
Which, considering the time
and what they were working
the era, with the era and everything else, that was amazing.
Yeah,
it tells it, and now we know that the methodology that they used, because we've backed it through the scientific method, is actually a valid way to do it.
Yeah, it worked.
We've fine-tuned it. Let me be very clear. We have severely fine-tuned the process, right? But as a basis for that fine-tuning, that's amazing,
Yeah. Stephanie's giving me correction over here, saying technically, okay, first off, if you're going to start off with technically, unless you preface it with the onomatopoeia of I'm not going to take you seriously, technically it was done in Egypt. You know what? I don't remember where it was done in particular any longer. So was it done in Egypt? That would track for me. Of course, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm just like, Dr. Jones and his stick. I don't remember where it was done.
I remember that it was done a long time ago, and I remember learning about it actually in math, and then as well as in science class.
Yeah,
it was taught in both classes for different reasons,
and both valid.
Both valid reasons. Yeah. The thing is that these are things that we can test repeatedly over time using what we call the scientific method. And then when we find deviances or changes or discrepancies, we can make changes to our thought process about those experiments, and we can take the notes and we can produce valid scientific theories out of what we call hypotheses. Not to be confused with a hypothesis is very similar to a layman's theory. A scientific theory should never be confused with, well, that's just a theory. When you hear somebody say that's just a theory, they're dismissing something as a hypothesis.
Yeah, and a hypothesis is just a big word for an educated guess. Now, the cool part about it is, it's when you think about how large the Earth is, and yeah, you can go ahead and you can get whatever the measurement is, and it doesn't matter what scale you're using. It doesn't matter if you're using imperial or metric or whatever. It's a big number, man. And it's an even bigger expanse when you look at it from, well, us little pissants on the face of the Earth. Because it is so large compared to us, it's kind of easy to just say, well, it just kind of goes on forever. Well, kinda.
Or that it has an edge to it. Hence why we still, to this day, have flat earthers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they don't trust the scientific method. When they say the Earth is flat, what they're really saying is we don't trust the scientific method.
And the best part about it is whenever you see these folks who are in the Flat Earth Society who are doing it unironically, I might add. Because there are some who are doing it just to take the piss, just because it's funny. But there are those who actually really believe it. Of course, I think these are also the same people that believe that birds don't really exist, but that's a whole other thing. I love it when they go ahead and say, this is the experiment, and we've crafted this experiment, and we've got all the stuff in order to prove that the Earth is flat. And they go ahead and they do their experiment, and they do it the way that they're expecting to get a result. And like, well, maybe that didn't work right. Well, let's go ahead and change this piece of it, and see what happens. And boom, they get the result that should happen if the Earth is curved. Oh, well, geez, look at that. Something's wrong. And if you want to see a whole bunch of these takedowns over on YouTube, Simon Dan is great with this stuff, man. He is so great with this stuff.
What blows my mind is that so many of them have this. Now, I don't know the number, but I hear it get regurgitated by a lot of flat earthers. And that is that the only reason we can't go over the edge of the planet is because the governments of the world won't let us. That they somehow if you try to sail onto a ship out to the ocean and you try to get close to the edge, in some cases, some claim that you get gassed and you're redirected off course so that you start coming back to mainland, after being out a certain time, or that there's a field that's been created by the scientists that knock you out if you get too close to the edge,
or open fired on.
Yeah, that you'll be shot at, or that the glaciers are forming a barrier so we can't accidentally fall over. Otherwise, the oceans would pour over the edge. Little things like that. And I'm like, wow, you guys are creative. Have you ever thought of maybe using that talent for creativity to make a cake? Just saying, go bake some bread or something. Flat, not round.
Okay. I'm trying to read this name that Stephanie's given us, saying that it was the head librarian in Alexandria that had done the experiment that we're referencing. And I'm going to absolutely butcher this, but I'm going to give it a try. Eratosthenes. I don't.
I think the first part is Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes. Fudge.
I will speak Italian.
Eratosthenes.
I will
she
even
put the phonetics in there for us.
I will sing in Latin. I don't speak old.
It's okay. Close enough for government work.
Okay, now have written it as Eratosthenes. And the problem is I look in the middle of that and I'm just like, Era, TOS. Oh, okay. Now we're doing the whole Star Trek thing again, and really we don't need that. But it amazes me that there are people that, because they do not understand a topic, or that an explanation cannot be easily given because of the complexity of the issue, that they simply dismiss the word of the experts in the field because they can't easily or quickly explain.
And yet these same people will use a tape measure.
Or, as I put into the intro for the show, or a Rolex, or the
or Timex, quartz crystal precision.
Timex takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
Heck, even Casio, the quartz based watch. In fact, they're redoing their iconic piece, but it's only being sold in Japan at first. There's been no response about whether or not they'll sell the what do they call it when they remake something based on 50 years history or whatever?
Reissue?
Well, yeah, a reissue, but they tend to give it a more flourishy name, like this is
new.
No. You're screwing with me. I've got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because you do it to me often enough, I am allowed to get back at you.
Yeah, you are. But anyway, like an anniversary edition or something,
Okay.
celebration of an anniversary or whatever. And I thought it was really cool. And I was like, I remember wearing that model as a kid that they're remaking. And I was like, man, I don't usually wear a watch, but if I was going to wear a watch again, I would definitely wear that model because it wasn't, it didn't have any kind of nonsense going on with it. There was nothing. It didn't have the built-in calculator. It didn't have multiple dials on it. It wasn't, you know,
It's just
15 million time zones. It was just a watch, and it was a reliable watch. You know.
I used to have a really reliable watch. It had Mickey Mouse on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So did Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his thing.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that don't want to trust scientists because they hear conflicting statements or they hear conflicting statements from people who truly aren't um, professionals of that particular field of topic, make bold, boisterous claims. They'll make arguments. They'll go on instead of attacking the scientific claim with more science and evidence and so on. Instead, um, they'll attack. They'll question your intelligence levels. They'll try to guilt trip people. They become hostile. They'll behave in dangerous or just mean ways rather than actually coming down with, hey, that claim that you made, that hypothesis that you've supposedly turned into a scientific theory using this experiment here with these conditions and so on. Well, we've retested that, and we need to overturn that scientific theory because we have demonstrable proof, new evidence that's come along that shows that what your scientific theory, supposed and proven theory is wrong, or it's a part of it. Maybe not the whole thing's wrong, but maybe a part of it is incorrect. And science doesn't, it doesn't stand on dogma. Science is a changing, evolving process as we come to understand more math and more physics and more of everything that science is involved in. And a good scientist is going to say, oh, okay, let me see your results. Let me see if I can reproduce your results. And then I'll have to go back and redo my claim and everything else. And that's how it's supposed to work. But we're all people. So there are plenty of scientists who get really butthurt when they've spent 30 years on something. It's finally gone from the step of hypothesis to scientific theory, and some young blood comes along with a newer or better understanding with better evidence. Maybe a new um, a new a new device that has better, more fine-tuned calibration. We learned to make some piece of technology that was measuring that experiment, shows where the flaw was. Because technology advances as our science advances, and they get butthurt. And it happens. We're human. We take things at an emotional level, especially something that we hold near and dear to our hearts. Just go to any religious person who's highly religious that, is constantly praising God and everything else, and you tell them that their God doesn't, your claims to a God are, unprovable, and therefore we don't believe. They take that very personally because it's very near and dear to their heart. Well, scientists get like that too. They're human. We're all human. But the science itself, the scientific method, it doesn't have feelings. It's not designed to care about the scientist's feelings or society's feelings. It is a tool, just like a hammer. And it is a tool for better understanding and correcting things that have come out as factually incorrect and finding what the correct facts are. And there's a lot of people that don't like change. So
Yeah.
when they learn, so if they learn that 1 plus 1 equals 2 and 2 plus 2 equals 4, and let's say we have a revolution in math and we turns out that we really got it wrong. There's a lot of people in the world who wouldn't change the thinking that 1 plus 1 equals 2 and 2 plus 2 equals 4 because no, it can't be.
Yeah. And conversely, there are plenty of scientists who will go ahead and say, you found something that I never knew about? Let me learn something new. Gotta love that.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of them don't get TV time. A lot of them don't get press, and there's not a lot of people that read scientific journals. So they don't know who these people are. They're just some random, to put it the way I hear other people do it. Oh, that's just for some random nerd on television who didn't have enough friends as a kid. It's like, wow, that's really degrading. I can understand I can't have a peaceful conversation with you because you're just going to attack me and my thoughts. You're just going to be hostile.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion on a piece. And I'm trying to remember, do you have any recollection about Doctor Who in any version, any format?
I've been watching Doctor Who since I was a toddler in diapers, and it was on CBC in Canada, in Ontario. So, my earliest recollection about Doctor Who is John Pertwee transforming into Tom Baker. Although I know I've saw a few episodes with John Pertwee before that. It was a staple of the household from the moment it showed up on TV. It was something my mother watched. It was something her siblings watched. It was something her parents watched. And I still watch it.
So I had refound a line from Doctor Who back from the classic era. So
I saw it.
So you want to go ahead and you want to read that off, and I'm curious if you know which doctor very specifically that one is.
I think that's Tom Baker, but I could probably be wrong. Because he had a couple very prophetic lines over the years. One of the ones that I like the most is, of course, how just because we grow old does not mean we have to grow up.
He also famously said, "Jelly baby."
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I have jelly babies here.
There you go. So, would you be so kind to read the line?
The very powerful and the very stupid have one thing in common. They don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to fit the views, which can be uncomfortable if you happen to be one of the facts that needs altering.
How damn true, right?
Yeah, which doctor is that? Is also me going,
I will tell you. And I will tell you that you had it right.
yay!
It was Tom Baker's.
Yay! I had written fan fiction of Tom Baker taking a 14-year-old Canadian girl with him on the TARDIS.
Well, I mean,
I had a brown fedora hat like yours, and I had a long scarf too because I had Romana on my side, and I had.
Please tell me it was PG.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was 14, so 12 to 14 when I was writing this. All that fanfic just disappeared. It was basically journal writing for English class, and the teacher said, "Write whatever you want." Can I write about Doctor Who? Sure, go ahead. Not the first fanfic I ever wrote. That was actually Battlestar Galactica, but yeah.
That's all right.
And I found some other fanfic that I wrote from about the same time period, probably 16, 17. My spouse has it, and he says that he can read my writing, but it's taking him a while to read it. I think it's the journal where the teacher told me that I need to stop writing porn and actually write story. When they say you can write whatever you want, I went nuts.
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah, well, I had read Clan of the Cave Bear and the Valley of Horses by then. And some of the sex scenes in the second book, my poor little teenage self just.
And here I had my head twisted around with the Peter principle. So that's, yeah, the whole other thing.
The thing about Flat Earth Society people isn't just that they change the facts to alter their point of view. The Earth is flat to them because that's as far as they can see. It's flat. It doesn't matter that if they move 10 feet, their horizon moves 10 feet with them. That horizon to horizon is their flatness. That's their world. That's all they care about.
And they a lot of them forget that when you drive long distances, right? So just driving from the east coast of the United States to the west coast of the United States, that horizon changes as you drive, right?
But it's still their
And
part of the Earth, and it's flat.
The stuff over the horizon slowly rises up. And the only way for that to do, it's not it gets smaller to bigger. It rises up on the horizon. And the only way for that to actually happen is if there was a curve. If it was flat, you wouldn't have that visual. You would have just things getting smaller, a dot, to growing into a bigger dot. Instead, it's like having a line come up out of the ground, like a tree.
But it's where their boundaries are, where the edge of their world is, which is about what, 5 miles on a side. It's radius about 5 miles or 2 miles or whatever. How far human can see.
I think it's 7.
Yeah,
something like that.
We'll just say 5 miles for
that's
simplicity.
The thing. Driving east coast to west coast is longer than that mileage. So
yes, but they blink and it becomes a new.
That's what dash cams are for.
It's just in there. It doesn't matter where they are. The Earth that is underneath their feet, their ass, their car is flat. Right then, right there. It doesn't matter if you're actually going from one end of the 66 to the other end of the 66, or the one end of the 5 to the other end of the 5, or the one end of the 90 to the other end of the 90. Where they are, right then and there, right at that second, the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
I get that. What I'm trying to bring to focus, though, is that they literally have the evidence before them, and they either choose not to see the evidence, or they are just not very observant of it. It's not registering because they may have not been taught, or they may have been, they're too busy, or they're too tired, because we do need sleep. You can't a lot of people can't stay awake for an extended period of time and pay attention to things. You get bored while driving. A lot of things come up. You have to take a rest and so on. Mm-hmm. That's why I was pointing out that dash cams are really prevalent now, across the world. And you don't have to take it, at face value and see it with your own eyes. You can literally travel with a camera if you have a nice large capacity memory card in your dash cam, depending on resolution, things like that, and you can literally see it for yourself. You just have to want to actually, or be willing to pay attention to that stuff. It's like the contradictions in the Bible, right? You have lots of contradictions in the Bible. They might be spread apart, like one statement in Genesis is contradicted by a statement in John, or a statement in Matthew is contradicted in Judges, or Genesis and Galatians, or Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Genesis. There's a lot of contradictions, and you have to literally be willing to sit down and look at it objectively to see the contradictions. Because if you're just reading it and accepting everything at face value, word for word, those contradictions are changing in your head, and you're only cherry picking what you want to keep. Which is why, like, for example, some people say God is all powerful. Okay, this is one of those contradictions I was talking about, Matthew and Judges. In Matthew 19:26, with all things God are possible. But in Judges 1:19, the Lord was with Judah and he drove out the inhabitants of the mountains. But he could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. That tells me that the power of God is restricted because the chariots of iron were more powerful than God. He couldn't drive them out. So that is a contradiction between the two. And people will pay attention to the statement in Matthew and ignore the statement in Judges. Or they'll make an excuse for what was said in Judges.
Oh, it's not a matter that they will, it's that they do.
Apologists will make an excuse, but your regular layman might not see that contradiction.
Or,
they may,
more appropriately, probably don't even know about it.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways to make an atheist is to read the Bible, if you're Catholic or Christian or whatever.
And the best part about the unironic flat earthers, like I said earlier, you watch them trying to do their experiments, and they're just like, well, we set it up the way that it would demonstrate that there actually is a round Earth instead of a flat Earth, and wow, we're getting a result that way. Well, obviously there's something wrong with the experiment. My dude, you're just so close. So close.
I like Stephanie's statement. There are none so blind as those who will not see. That is such a true statement.
Yeah. Now, part of the reason
and
why
that doesn't apply to just religion, by the way. That
No.
applies to everything. Relationships. Like, I was in a bad relationship because I didn't want to see that I was the one being abused.
Sure.
I didn't want to see that, and I had to. It wasn't until I accepted that I was being abused that I started to go, oh shit, this is bad.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I specifically use the thing about what time is it is that because of the concept of time itself, we've learned so much about the world around us and the inner workings of the universe itself. For instance, once it was possible to make a mechanical chronometer, because that's what the accurate term for a watch is, or a clock. It is a chronometer. It is a meter on time. It was possible to figure out where you were on the globe by measuring the time starting from Greenwich Mean and noon, and setting a clock, an accurate clock, at 12 o'clock at noon, and going out in the ships, sailing vessels, the old wind-powered ones with sails, and then a day or two later, or just the next day, what time is it once the sun is overhead? Okay, let's open the box. Let's see where we are in relation to the clock now. Well, look at that. We're no longer at 12 o'clock. We're now, whatever that is, change the deflection as to how far along on the map in latitude, and you get an idea as to where you are on a map. And I just saw things blink on my screen. I think we have somebody showing back up again. Mystery guest, would you sign in, please?
Hello.
It's been so long, pal. How you doing?
Okay, fine. Yeah, I've had quite a hectic year, so.
I've really missed you, man. It's so good
I
to
recognize
see you.
that voice.
Yes. From, well, somewhere in France, I'm assuming. Joseph?
I'm still in Paris.
Are you still in a castle?
No, not anymore, no.
It's a little too cold for that right now.
Oh
Yeah, they're very drafty. Robin Hood men in tights. Yeah.
There's that.
Ugh.
So, Joseph, welcome back. It is good to hear you again. Are you doing okay?
yeah, I'm fine. Sorry it's been so long,
That's all right.
but with the move and the accident and all that,
Yeah.
I've been pretty busy with court cases and stuff like that.
Fair enough.
Real life gets in the way of everything, doesn't it?
True that.
Mm-hmm.
That plus, it is oh dark stupid in the morning over there right now. So,
Oh, it's not so bad. It's
You've-
about 7:20.
Have you had your coffee?
I'm having it right now.
brilliant.
Awesome, man.
Mm.
Yeah, you have no idea how happy you've made me that that you're on right now. Thank you so much for being
No,
here.
thank you, man. I'm touched.
Oh, great! The two French people are going to start talking to each other in French.
Well,
I don't know. I'm not French, and I don't know French. He's just an old friend.
I know.
Who's the other French person?
Ah, Buddy, come on. Trémazé.
Okay.
You're speaking Quebecan, which I think
Yeah,
is a
but
butchered
say-
French. Oh,
yeah.
did I say that out loud? Quebec has just gone to war with the United States.
Bah, je suis canadien anglophone, donc bah, j'ai pas tout à fait le même accent.
Yeah, I'm Anglophone only because I didn't stay in Ontario.
Why'd you leave?
I got dragged out by my mother.
Okay. Oh, so you wanted to stay.
What?
You wanted to stay.
I wanted to stay. I had a very good French school. I had family and all that, and nope. Mom wanted a job, so we moved to BC.
Okay. Yeah, my brother's not far. Well, my brother's in Alberta. Or no, yeah. Okay. It's a long story.
I'm in California. I've been speaking more French in California than I have in 30 years since I graduated from high school. 35 years. 36 years. Something like that.
And why is that?
Because the
Not
Latin
of-
community, out here thinks it's cute that I speak French when I'm actually trying to speak Spanish.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, you know, most of the words are the same, just slight different pronunciations. You know.
Mm. If you're lucky enough to learn Latin early in life, yeah, it's pretty.
Nobody
I
is
didn't learn-
lucky to learn Latin early in life. That is probably the definition of being very unlucky. There's no reason to anymore. Well, anyway.
Well, my father was lucky enough to learn. He was being taught by his family both Latin and French, and he was more advanced in French class at school. And back then, the way they treated that sort of thing was not very positive. And so what happened is eventually they got called into school and said, "Hey, are you teaching your kid French at home?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course," because his mother was French. And they said, "Well, you can't do that because you're going to teach him the wrong things, and we have a curriculum to teach, and he's going to be, he's going to have a learning disability." And oh my God, yeah. So he ended up never becoming truly fluent French. He did enjoy Latin though.
What pissed me off is my grade 3 French from Ontario was equivalent to grade 8 French in British Columbia. And I was in French immersion with both of them. So 90% of my classes were in French. I wasn't allowed to speak English out in the playground area or anything like that. I had to speak French the entire time. Ontario and BC have completely different curriculums when it comes to French. And honestly, BC was lagging behind.
Well, I will say this: the best lesson that I ever learned from a language instructor was if you want to speak the language, you have to immerse yourself in it as well as the culture. And so when I used to work another career field and I was surrounded by the Hispanic community, and I was learning from them not just how to speak Spanish, but also, you know, family family lifestyle and where they were from and their culture and everything else. It made it a heck of a lot easier to learn what they were trying to teach me, to just for basic communication. I learned more Spanish inside of a year than I could have ever learned from Duolingo or any of those other places, or
Mm-hmm.
other tools. So, you know, if I had a playground where everybody was forced to speak whatever language I was interested in, and it was the only, and it was, you couldn't talk in any other language, I'll guarantee I would be picking up other languages a lot faster as a kid back then.
You know, this actually works out. This actually works out to our advantage because of topic-wise how this is going on. And just to bring you up to speed, it's a matter of trying to deal with the people who refuse to listen to experts in fields, especially scientific experts. And I titled it off with, what time is it? Because, are you going to believe the makers of watches for what time it is? One of the things that we ended up having come up earlier, because Stephanie had kind of corrected us a little bit on stuff, because we were talking about how very early on, she was correcting us that it was done in Egypt, not Greece. The measurement of the first real documented measurement of the Earth at the time, using a couple of sticks and shadows and maths and whatnot to try and figure it out, saying that at the time Greek was the language used for what we now call scientific discussion, and over the years, a couple hundred years ago, if I remember right, French basically became the de facto scientific language.
Well,
So
not only scientific, but it became what was the lingua franca. I mean, at the time of Jesus, everybody spoke Greek.
right, but
So,
but centuries later, as we know full well, there was a lot of community that had the scientific interchange. Interchange? Yeah, I'll go with that. In French, as opposed to most other languages, which I always thought was kind of a curious thing. But then again, France also kind of gave us the metric system to the rest of the world. So I'm kind of wondering from your perspective, with where you are, with all the things that you've had to deal with, I'm trying to figure out how to properly word this. We have the Flat Earth Society out here, or the Flat Earth people who they don't believe in the flat Earth as just a joke. They think it's real. I have to believe, for what you know, for what you've seen from where you are, that it's just got to be an absolute absurdity that people like this even exist, even as a joke, right?
well, it's like, yeah, well, watching the news from America, I think for people here, it's like, I don't know, visiting the zoo.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, the dancing animals. Yeah, but I can't say people, the level of education of people here. Yeah, I don't know how to compare that. But I mean, people seem to be pretty on the level with reality here. I mean, people, the French tend to be skeptical about everything, which is a handy tool.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
mean, oh, sorry.
when I was growing up and in all those French immersion classes, in all the French immersion after school classes and all the French immersion lifestyle stuff outside of school, one of the things that they told us in social studies was that it was the rich and the aristocracy that knew French and were using it in order to communicate ideas and things. But
yeah.
they never taught us any of the swear words.
Oh,
They never did. Grade 7, one of the guys stood up and said, "Well, what about swear words?" to our teacher. And it got interesting, and he taught us a couple of swear words, but not even the good ones.
I've mentioned this before, that that scene from the second Matrix, where they're visiting the Merovingian or whatever he's called, and he's like, "Putain de bordel de merde de enculé." Swearing in French, it's like wiping your ass with silk.
Yep.
And I also do very specifically remember you telling us that some of the worst swears in French, which really aren't that bad, all seem to be centered around the church.
Yep.
Oh, that's Quebec.
Oh, I've misremembered then.
Yeah, that's typically Canadian, Quebecois. It's just everything tabernacle.
Colis,
Saturday.
hostie.
Yeah.
Okay. No, shows you what I don't know.
Oh. Now you do know.
It was frustrating because in Millardville, which is a small suburb of Vancouver, it's actually a small suburb of one of the smaller cities in Vancouver, because Vancouver goes from Hope to Squamish down to White Rock and all the way to the Burrard Inlets and all that. They have their French festivals every year. So somebody from that came and was yelling at us because one of the kids did something wrong, and we wanted to know what he was actually saying to us because we didn't know those words. Teacher still didn't tell us what the words were.
Mm.
But I have at least 3 books on French naughty words. What am I supposed to do? Not know the words? I know if I was to immerse myself in about 6 months of French language, either Quebecois or Parisien, I would end up being fluent again.
Well, that's normal. I mean, it's like I'm losing my Japanese because I haven't been there since 2006, but or 2009. I forget, but yeah, it's just I haven't been there so long. But I mean, once you're there, you've got no choice. You have to speak the language. So
yeah.
The fun part was that they had 2 Korean, 2 Latin, and a sign language interpreter at City Hall on Tuesday. They haven't had the sign language interpreter. And I actually commented about her and made her blush. I said she's finger dancing over there, and I love it. She went beet red. Well, I know enough sign language to pick up words and some of the stuff that they're saying, but not enough to translate.
Okay.
Nowhere near enough to translate.
That's a really good question. Going back to your playground scene where they forbade you to speak English on the playground, maybe you could have just spoken English in sign language.
I didn't know enough then.
But that's that's okay. I know, shut up, brain. But that's a real question. Is sign language, does it differ from language to language?
Yes, actually, there's at least 3 different versions that I know of. There's the British Sign Language, there's the American Sign Language, which actually has different dialects, depending on where you are in North America. And there's the Australian Sign Language. I'm pretty sure that there's a European Sign Language as well as others. And some of the letters are different. Some of the words are different.
Mm.
And on and on and on. And actually, because French is a gendered language, the word for the, le, and la is a crooked finger by your temple or by your cheek, depending on whether it's male or female. That became the word gender if it's from your cheek to your chin more than your temple. It got moved down on the face.
And we're also
250 years of sign language being a language, and that's how that one word evolved.
Yeah. Also getting a little bit of clarification. Stephanie's letting us know there are 2 British Sign Languages, the Southern version being the official one. Did not even know that. So, cool. Now I'm wondering if what Gaelic would look like as a... Gaelic Sign Language and now Welsh is in my head. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole any further. I think we're pretty well done with that rabbit hole.
Well, if they actually had a sign language that was neutral, where the same sign meant the same thing but different languages, we could have a universal language.
Yeah.
But because we don't have... But because we don't have that, we don't have a universal language. And there was also at least one, possibly more than one, Native American sign language.
Mm.
And that's how they talk to each other.
Did not know
when
that.
they went trading.
Did not know that.
Esperanto. Oh, I'm going to out myself here, but the same teacher that refused to teach us any of the bad swear words started to teach us Esperanto.
That in and of itself qualifies as swear words, I think.
Yeah, I know one word in it still. Salut bon, which is basically hi.
And one other piece from Stephanie. There are at least 2 versions of Welsh, and do not investigate Irish Gaelic. Fair enough. Actually,
by the way, speaking of Gaelic, if anybody travels to Ireland and they're in one of the highly populated areas that are very metro, very touristy and all that, and you get one of the locals who is only speaking Gaelic to you, they're taking the piss out of you. They know English. They're just screwing with you.
Yeah.
To make you uncomfortable. Because there's nothing more entertaining than screwing with an out-of-towner in most places that you go to.
Yeah. And, this now takes us down an area that is a legitimate part of the topic that I hadn't even thought about or hadn't even considered discussing while we still got a little bit of time. The importance of language, more appropriately, the importance of communicative language with the scientific transmission, I guess is the best way that I can see to do that. Because every language has its own different nuance with terminology, with how something is supposed to be explained. For instance, English and Spanish use a different setup, noun, verb, adjective setup from each other. And some languages do it one way, some languages do it another, some do it completely what would seem to be cryptic. Sign language especially does it in a very to spoken English person. It's really screwy. The importance of having minimally a language specific for scientific dissemination versus trying to communicate from one person to another across direct language.
That's the topic today?
It wasn't. But at this point, the overall topic was basically supposed to have been, how do you even trust knowing what time of day it is if you're not going to trust the experts in a field? Because if it's cloudy, what are you going to do? You're going to look on a watch? You're going to trust, you're going to trust Big Chronograph? You're going to trust BULOVA and TIMEX to tell you what time it actually is? So why believe all of these other ones? And if you don't believe all these other experts, why are you believing your wristwatch? Kind of thing. But since we got over onto the language thing, yeah, over history, Greek for a while was the chosen method for hard scientific discussion. And like I said, French kind of became the de facto scientific language. At least for, storing and disseminating to everyone else. So as a kind of curious question to go along with that, how... I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't forget that science was indissociable from philosophy until I'd say the late 18th century.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm kind of wondering how important were those that translated. Actually, you know what? That's not even the right question or area, because when you were in the scientific field, you knew multiple languages. Your whatever your local language was, and typically French, and probably 2 or 3 other languages to go along with it. So, because what I was gonna ask was, how important were the people who were translating from French to whatever the other language was? But generally speaking, you really didn't have that problem because so many people learned so many different languages at the time. Damn, I didn't even think about it.
That crazy monk from what was that movie? The Rose, Tale of the Rose, or something like that. Was a monk in a monastery, and he spoke several languages, and just like his normal way of talking was like changing language with every second word.
Well, that's just annoying.
Yeah. Especially when you could understand them. I can tell you that I'm working for the IPGP, Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris, and basically what they do there is collect geographical data, everything, earthquakes, volcanoes, all the terrestrial movements. They collect data from all over the world. And there are so many different nationalities working there. We've got Iranians, we've got Chinese, we've got Tunisians, we've got... and I can tell you that, the language they use there to communicate between themselves is English.
That's a surprise. That's very much a surprise, and I don't know if I want to say that's disappointing, but not from the standpoint that you might think, because I think that part of the reason why English is kind of the interchange is because so much of it is based off of the internet at this point. And so much of it is just de factoed English just because of how much usage here to start off.
Yeah, I think the web has really changed everything in that way.
So obviously the only way to go is to have a combination of sign language of some version and transfer everybody over to Klingon. I mean, you laugh, but it's an evolving language. It's constantly,
Yeah, I know.
It's constantly allowing people to have interchange across, national boundaries and ages, and nobody can claim ownership to it. Sort of, except for Mark Okrand, but that's Mark.
Who's that?
Mark Okrand?
Yeah.
He's the guy that actually created the Klingon language.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I got the English Klingon dictionary back in the late 80s, and he's the guy that did it, and it's continuing to evolve and be added to. So the idea of there being a commencement speech being given in Klingon, it just tickles my fancy. I can dream. Leave me alone.
That sounds like a challenge.
It would be, but I mean, if they can do Hamlet in Klingon, they can have a valedictorian speech in Klingon. Why the hell not? Hell, you might even not need a microphone at that point.
The interesting thing about how global that the internet has become is shortly after I came here, my then boyfriend was trying to deal with something on the websites that he has to deal with at the time, and he required translation from French because the company that they were dealing with was a completely French company in Paris. And I was translating it without having to use Google. And he looked at me, and I found the actual link that he wanted. It wasn't just one web page that I was looking at. I had to do a search through a bunch of different links to find the actual homepage of this company that they needed information about because they needed to contact it, and nobody at the company could read it. I could read it. I told them just use Google Translate.
Yeah, because
actually,
if they're not going to pay me for my work, just use Google Translate.
Yeah, and I wouldn't use Google Translate. Pretty horrible.
But it's quote unquote good enough.
Yeah, like for example, I'll use Google Translate for if I'm watching. There are certain animes or things that I'll watch, and the translation feels off compared to what's going on screen. So I'll put it in the original language, and I'll put the closed caption on in that language, and I'll run it through Google Translate, and it usually comes up something different that more aligns to what's going on screen. So Google Translate is good enough, but I would never use it in, like, say, a diplomatic situation.
Oh, hell no.
That would be terrible, unless, of course, the diplomat was like, this is the only thing we have, let's keep it simple.
If
And
they
even
were
then,
willing to
it would
pay
still
me,
be a red flag. Hell no,
If they had been willing to pay me, I would have translated all the documents that they needed. I would have done it all. But no, they weren't willing to pay me. Oh, go ahead, use Google Translate.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but if there's something that needs to be translated and it's a business or political situation or something, you pay for the professionals. You really do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes the difference. When people speak, we forget this when we speak only with people around us who speak the same language as we do, and the same slang, and have the same context to back up our words. We're fine. But one of the easiest ways to see the difference is you take a very scientifically literate person and Johnny homeowner who never made it to college, right? And maybe did make it to college, but never put much truck in science. And you have them both explain what a theory means to them. You're going to get two different definitions. You're from the scientifically literate person, you're going to get the definition of what is called a scientific theory. And from the non-science literate person, you're going to get a definition of what they think a theory is, which is actually, as we've previously discussed, is a hypothesis. And that's where like I pointed out before many times on this show, and we have many times on this show, that when you have somebody go on the news and say, well, that's just a theory, and they're a policeman or they're a politician or whatever, they're using it wrong and they're propagating this incorrect thinking of this word. And it makes one of the greatest divides between society as a whole and the scientific community as a whole.
My point was, if
By the
they
way,
weren't going to
scientists are guilty of using it wrong too.
My point was, if this company that really needed these documents translated so they could find the information that they needed, because they needed this information and they needed it now, and they weren't willing to pay for my time, they could just go use Google Translate. If they were willing to pay me for my time.
Yeah.
Nope.
I
mean,
yeah. Tech, do me a favor. Don't ever use the name John and then use the word Holmes together in a sentence back to back ever again.
No, I was trying to say Johnny Homeowner.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just yeah. There are people right now who are kind of squinting and trying to figure out what I'm talking about. Don't look that up.
Don't
Don't
Google
look that
that. You don't flag the episode as not
don't
safe
do that.
and all that other crap.
Don't look that up. That's next week.
That's not what we're referencing. I'm using.
I know.
I'm using a colloquial term.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Yeah. So, and
Again,
going back
context.
going back over to Stephanie. Speaking several languages was normal in medieval times and necessary, particularly in early medieval times, where Britons lived with Saxons and Vikings, not to mention trading with anyone from the French to Arabs, in quotes. So anyone from the Middle East, which could have been any one of about a half dozen different languages that I can think of just off the top of my head. And Lexa, hi, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Google Translate starts sweating.
That was a great episode. That was fantastic. I love that episode of Next Generation.
Yeah.
And there's so many memes that they use for it now.
Yeah, and we've only got a few minutes left. Yeah, Joseph, I'm assuming, I'm hoping correctly so, that you do know, you have seen the episode Darmok and Jalad, or Darmok, I think is what it is, from Star Trek Next Generation. Yes.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. The episode centers around the Enterprise having effectively first contact with a new species whose language, the words can be translated, the sentences can be translated, but it doesn't seem to make any kind of sense. And one of the big lines is Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. And it takes a good portion of the episode for them to finally understand that the language that they use speaks in effectively meme and metaphor of story that is referenced in just a few words to get the idea across from one to another, which is very different from what we do with English, French, and whatnot, where you have the subject, the object, the verb that puts all the pieces together to give you the puzzle of the concept, finally all just put together once you finally got it to the end, versus the puzzle is no longer piecemealed, it's one big chunk, but you have to understand what all of the pieces are behind it in order to understand the concept of what they're trying to explain. I'm sure we can find
I already put the link in the show notes.
Beauty.
It's an 8-minute abridged version to get the point across that they speak in metaphor through example.
Yeah.
You know,
So I guess
like for example, instead of saying you can see clearly of how we communicate now, he says his eyes are uncovered.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a great example of what I previously said about understanding a language by being immersed in the culture. um, Picard's on a planet with Darmok, and they're facing a life-threatening situation together. They have a common enemy that's threatening their lives, and no advanced technology to save them, just knives. So they have to learn to communicate together. Picard specifically has to learn how to communicate with Darmok to best work together as a team.
Well, the Temerian captain, I don't remember what his name is off the top of my head, and I'm pretty sure the species was Temerian. But in any case, what I wanted to get from you, since, like I said, since we've only got a couple more minutes left, you've got several languages under your belt. You were here in Canada, where primarily English and French, but now you're in France, where you're very much in French, like 90% of the time, I would assume. I kind of want to get your understanding, your best feeling about it, as far as to how important it is to be able to learn other languages, to at the very least have an appreciation for how to understand other people, so that proper communication, actual concepts, can get from one person to another, from one culture to another. And I know that's a big ask, and I'm sorry, but I don't know how else to ask the question that I'm looking towards.
You're not asking me specifically.
I'm
Yep,
hoping.
he is.
Okay.
Yeah, because in your situation, like I said, you were in Canada, where primarily English and French, but now it's very much flipped the other way, where it's French, a little English, but you've got several languages like that, very in some cases disparate. Like I said, you Japanese as well, which is kind of quite a bit different. I'm just kind of wondering how you feel, because of that, because of the job and all of what you do, how important it is for the interchange of information by knowing different languages.
Yeah, well, I've got several polyglot friends, and I can just say it depending on the subject we're speaking about, we'll change topic. If I'm talking about cooking, well, it's going to be French. If we're talking about something scientific, it's going to be probably English. And just like and we change languages without thought. I mean, yeah, but it's super important. I mean, it's like every language you have is another tool. But unfortunately, not everybody speaks everybody else's language. I mean, I learned Japanese out of necessity because I worked there, and in French, of course, because I live here. But I mean, yeah, I just like Tech said earlier. I mean, if you really want to, you really have to need if you want to learn a language, you have to need the language. Yeah, but for sure, it's of course, it's useful for intercommunal communication. I don't know how to say that.
No, that works. So I also have to imagine that there's every once in a while there are times where it's one person has to translate to a second person who then gets it to a third and then back again. Is that something that ends up happening every once in a while as well?
Yeah, but I've even done that where I'm working. If I had to translate for just one to Japanese. That's funny. One of the people working in the accounting department is Japanese, but no, but she. Anyways, yeah, that's another thing. But sometimes it's just for fun, we shoot shit in Japanese.
I'm having a really, really heavy laugh in my head because I still remember as a kid that because my brothers and I were all separated by 2 years, there was a moment where I had to translate. I had to talk to my next youngest brother, who would then talk to the youngest brother, who then brought it back the other way in order to tell our mom something that was going on. And we understood each other going down and then on the way back up, but she didn't understand the youngest one. Just had it was fun. It was funny to me. I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
I don't know who is a French philosopher who said that you with every language you learn, you earn a new soul.
That's interesting. Maybe we'll track that. All right. We are just past the top of the hour, so we do have to see about getting on out of here. Since we've had most of our time to go ahead and chat it up, Joseph, since you've since you're finally back, I kind of open for you for a couple of moments. Was there anything that you wanted to let us know about, talk about, or anything really quickly that you wanted to just kind of drop in here for what might or might not be on topic?
No, I've got nothing really to. No, I've been good. I've been away so long that yeah. Sorry about that.
No.
That's all I want to say.
No, and I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell you every damn time. I don't mind. All I want to know is every once in a while, are you okay? Cool. It's all I need to know more than anything else. There's always a spot for you if and or when you want to be here. You're here when you're here, you're not when you're not. So long as I know you're okay.
Thank you.
Hey, not a worry. Tech, any last item for you real quick?
Richard Feynman gave a lecture, and one of the things he said in his lecture was, if it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. There are people out there that say you have to trust the science, and you have to trust this, and you have to trust that. Science doesn't ask for trust. Okay? Dogma demands trust. It demands faith. Science doesn't demand either of those. Science, specifically the scientific method, says test everything. Test it again. Keep testing it. And when you get to an answer, a fact, until it's proven wrong, it's fact. Not trust, not faith. Okay? And how can we quote unquote trust in the scientific method? You don't. It's a tool. You don't trust a hammer. A hammer just is. It's a tool. Same thing with the scientific method. And until we get something that is better and has demonstrated that the scientific method doesn't work, we keep using it, and we keep using it successfully. So it's a tried and tested tool, just like a hammer. You hit a nail with a hammer, it's unless there's something wrong with the hammer or with the nail, or there's a flaw in the hammer in the manufacturing process or whatever, it does its job. Same with the scientific method. You don't have to trust it. Just use it. Learn how to use it, and then learn how it's been used to create the facts and methods and such. So it's one of those things that science doesn't demand trust or faith. It doesn't expect you to be blind about things. It actually demands that you test things. That's why we have a difference between a hypothesis and a scientific theory, because they're two different things. One has been tested, one has been not. So when you hear a scientist making a big, bold claim, well, there is nothing stopping you from educating yourself in that field and performing those experiments to see whether or not that claim is true or not, except maybe time or money. And yeah, we understand that here in America, that could be a problem for many people. But you don't have to take it on faith. You don't. You don't have to like the scientist making the claim. You don't have to do any of that. But religion does demand that. Religion demands that you have trust and faith in it.
Well, they don't want to be held accountable, and the scientific community. Yeah, because that's the thing with religion. Once you get humans into this position, or you keep them in that state where they depend on authority and all that. Well, the means for an authority to command respect, there's no accountability while reaping all the benefits.
Yeah, and if you've listened to the show long enough, you've heard Joseph and I talk about this sort of stuff often, because Joseph has if I remember correctly, it's been a while since we chatted, buddy, and bad things have happened to my brain since then. But you have a very extensive scientific background.
Background,
I thought with all that reading and such. And self-study and everything.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
That's more extensive than most Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
No, I have a blog that nobody reads, and that's about the extent of it.
Okay.
But, yeah. But I like to think that, the scientific method, basically, I like to say that I think in the scientific way, but science, basically, all it's doing is making what's in our brains match reality as much as possible. And that's it. In my everyday life, that's all I want to do.
That's fair. By the way, over there on the chat, Doc, do see you over there. Glad you're able to make it. Briefly, Io, any last items for you?
Two things. It was the Mythbusters that said you're just messing around unless you document it when it comes to science. I'm paraphrasing what they said.
Yep.
2, diabetes is a bitch. I've had repeated lows for the last couple of days to the point of almost wanting to go to the hospital. So I'm kind of not doing too good. Yeah.
Hang in there.
I love it. Because even when you reverse the low, you still feel like shit for hours.
There's that. I'll do these real quickly. In the picture repository, if you take a swing over to the Discord server that we've got, over in the picture repository, the items in question were mentioned from Richard Feynman, a close, warm, personal friend of the show, by the way. Loves our show. Never heard him disagree with the show.
Jeez.
Come on. If it disagrees with if it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. It's that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make any difference how smart you are or who makes the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. Simple. And the quote from Mythbusters very specifically is, remember kids, the only difference between screwing around and science is writing it down. That literally is the entirety of what we're talking about for tonight. That really is it. Science.
Once you write it down, there's a chance you can repeat it. And repeat it, and repeat it, and repeat it, and repeat it.
And you're also holding yourself accountable because when you're writing it down, other people can see it and they can tell you you're wrong.
And the best part about the scientific experiment, the investigative system, if you write it down, you're not just trusting fallible memory, because we know from these very same experiments of writing stuff down that we don't remember stuff as well as we think that we do. We just don't. So when you have people who are just like, I'm not going to trust stuff that's written down in a book because I don't know who wrote it down. Good. Don't. Check it against a whole bunch of others. There have been hundreds of scientists. 90+% of all scientists have only been alive in the last 100 years or so. So if you want to go ahead and you want to be upset that things don't work out the way that you want them to because you don't have ESP, or you don't know somebody that can move things with their mind, or you're not visited by your dead relatives, it's not because the universe doesn't like you. The universe just is. And we are the accident of chemistry that gets the opportunity to literally learn what it is that we're made from. Birds are real. The globe is a sphere. And I'm just a guy with a microphone. But you don't just have to take my word for it. So go out there and read a book. It's about that time we need to get on out of here. So everybody, of course, as always, thank you for joining us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. As always, everybody, thanks for being able to join us over there on the live chat. Doc, appreciate it. I know timing, really sucks for you, man, but so long as you're doing okay, as always, man, that's the biggest piece for us. So
yeah, and I agree with Doc. Christmas in retail is truly hell on earth.
Yeah, we'll get back around to that also. Lexa, thank you. Stephanie, you have fun, and I hope I gave you a good laugh about the color schemes that you've got going on. It just kind of works out good that way. And yes, I know the Earth is an oblate spheroid, but it's easier for me to get it out rather than having to mumble mouth it all at 2:00 in the morning.
And the highest point is not Mount Everest either. Look that one up. That one's fun. It's only the highest point if you're measuring from sea level.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
So
no. Neil deGrasse Tyson did a little on, I think it was StarTalk. He was actually talking about the highest point. And it was eye-opening. It was funny to listen to too. He's very entertaining when he wants to be.
True enough.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a troll for parents. Go out and kids, open up the cupboards, pull out all the pots and pans and bang them and see what happens. That's pretty much what he said when my kids were the right age to do that. You troll. But he was right. Let the kids be their own little scientists.
Because
let them discover everything.
Sorry, and I misspoke. Mount Everest is not the tallest mountain. I have to be specific here. He talks about the tallest mountain on the planet.
Okay. Joseph, again, wonderful to have an opportunity to catch up on you. You take care of yourself. There's always a spot available for you. Not a worry. You just take care of yourself. That's the most important piece.
Well, you guys too. Thanks for having a place for me.
Hey, no worries, man. You, you got mornings you can't sleep? We're here for you, man. No worries. You take care of yourself, seriously.
You too, sir.
Io, thank you very kindly. You also, you take care of yourself. I would have otherwise said stay warm, but you know what? Blow it out your ass.
It was warm tonight. What's funny is when I go down California streets and I see the Latinos, the Californians that have been there forever, and they're wearing winter gear that I would wear in Canada. The toques, the mucklucks, the big, bulky, down-filled jackets. They're wearing blankets as well. They've thrown a blanket around them. And I'm there with my hoodie, with my Crocs, with my leggings, with my t-shirt. It's Canadian. I'm adjusted to the Canadian weather still. I'm expecting the wind to hurt my face and to freeze my cheekbones. And it's not. And I love it.
Fair enough. You take care of yourself.
I am.
And Tech, of course, as always, you take care of yourself also. And thanks for being able to make it, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And folks, if you need a feel-good movie, maybe you've got the holiday, whatever, and you just need something to make you laugh and smile. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Wagons East.
Well, I was going for more
Uncle
about the
Buck.
holiday theme.
Uncle Buck, Wagons East. I'm going for the John Candy theme because he was
Yeah.
unique.
He was twice the man any other comedian would have been. But
More ways than one.
But then again,
Calling him fat?
I think I just did, yes. Everybody, thank you very much for being with us, of course, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again real soon. As always, if you'd like to be in touch with us, you got the business card over there. You can get us on all kinds of social medias, and I am still working on getting the Blue Sky stuff properly up and running. I'm transferring everything over from Twitter because it is a hellhole. I will not be posting there any longer, but I'm making sure that all the follows come over as best I can. I've got several accounts I'm still working on. It's going to take a little while. If you'd like to be in touch with us, that's probably one of the best ways. But of course, we've got all the contact info over there on the webpage, holycrapthevlogcast.com. And we'll be looking forward to talking to you again next week, very likely. I don't believe that there's going to be any change in the recording schedule currently. I haven't double checked. I'm pretty sure everything's going to be fine. But as was mentioned, yeah, being that this is the holiday shopping season, please remember, take your time. Wherever it is that you're having to go for purchasing anything, walk an extra couple of moments. Don't fight people for a parking spot. Just take your time. Every cashier is going through it. We've all been through it often enough. Just take your time. Don't go nuts.
Besides, if you think about it, fighting over that spot, right? Even if you get the spot, that's potentially somebody next to you who's going to, when they get in their car, ding your door. Where if you take the empty spot that's got other empty spots next to it, you're less likely to get your door dinged.
Let's face it. People are older and have more insurance.
Most importantly, though, please, if you are parking somewhere where there is a handicapped spot, or if there is a special needs parking, give way to the safety buffers. There are way too many times when people with mobility access requirements need to have an extra 6 feet next to their vehicle so that they can open a ramp and get down in a wheelchair. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, that's not motorcycle parking.
So please take your time. Please be safe. And we'll talk to you soon. So, in the meantime, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And of course, as always, my lady, 19 plus years later, I am still in love. Wow. Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. You dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone, as always, good night and enjoy the outro countdown.